Hi everyone, this is Gail from Gail Julie Makes. I hope you're all doing well, and today I've come back onto the channel to do another image transfer for you. And basically what I've done is I've gone to my local copy shop again to get a laser print done. I tend to prefer doing laser prints for this process. I know some people have managed to do it with inkjet, but I've struggled so far when I've tried it. So what I'm doing is I've invested in some golden open acrylics. Now these are a slower drying time acrylic, and they are a little bit more expensive paints, but Golden are a very well-renowned brand, and I totally think they're worth it. I am going to, however, pull with my Liquitex Paynes Grey, which has been my go-to paint and colour for the whole time I've been doing image transfers, really. So I'm a little bit anxious to, you know, go out of my comfort zone and try the Open Paynes Grey. I'm sure it will work absolutely fine, and I will do that, experiment with that a little bit, kind of when I get a bit of spare time and I'm not filming for the channel. So for today, we're going to use Liquitex Paynes Grey in heavy body. So this does have a, you know, a slower drying time than normal acrylics, but the open range have an even slower drying time than the heavy body. And you can get these in heavy body as well, but these are the ones that are going to, like, really, you know, extend your drying time, so you can manipulate on the plate a little bit more. Anyway, paints aside, so this is my own image, and what I've done is I've gone into the copy shop and I've said, can you print this for me on your laser printer in colour, even though it's black and white? And this is because the colour toner seems to, I don't know if it's a bit thicker or if it just holds better, but it just seems to work better for this process. So today then I am going to be using my big gel press plate purely because it's my cleanest one at the moment. I've got some work left over on one of my other ones that I started recently. So it's not clean on one side, but for the purposes of showing you this, I think it's going to be my cleanest plate. So we're not going to use the whole of the plate. This is a 12 by 14 by gel press. I'm not going to be using the whole of that plate, but we don't need to. We can just pull the area that we need. Okay, so let's get this layer off. On this plate, I haven't used as much actually. I haven't had it as long as my others, and it's not quite at that stage yet where I feel happy with how worn in it is. They tend to work better when you've had them for a while, don't they, gel plates? That's certainly what I've found anyway. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to just tear around the edges gently, because I prefer that sort of edge. I don't necessarily want it to be a square edge. And then we'll get that plate painted up. So here's my image. You can see, I don't know if you can see in this shot, it's you can kind of tell it's almost got a colour tint to it, but I don't mind that. And obviously it's going to show up in whatever colour we do our paint, rather than the actual coloration on here anyway, because it's about how the paint and the toner sort of work in terms of a resist for the paint that's going on there. Okay, so I'm just tearing, I'm kind of giving it a bit of what I suppose you would call a decal edge. Just to give it a little bit more a sort of natural shape, I suppose we could say. And just a final edge. If you can find and photograph your own, you know, your own work, then or if you can find objects, I should say, that you like to photograph, and it's your own work, then that's all the better, I would say, because there's a, you know, there's something to be said when it's completely your own work, because then if you want to reproduce it, you haven't really got any issues with you know, anyone kind of claiming you've used their image or whatever. So plus as well, it's satisfying because you get to go out and look at things you're interested in and photograph those. So, you know, it's a bit more accessible, I guess. Right, there we go. So we've got like a bit of a decal edge on that. I'm going to bring my plate back in. Okay, and then I'm just going to sort of offer it up. So I just want this sort of area really inked up or painted up, I should say. So let's get a bit of Paynes grey on the plate. I'm not going to use lots. As we know, you don't need lots of paint on your plate. You just need quite a thin layer, but it needs to be fairly even. So I'm thinking at the moment we're going to add a little bit more. So let's get a little bit more down. Get rid of this hair. Right, okay, and we'll pop a little bit more on this side, I think. There we go. The good thing about not needing too much paint as well is obviously that if you are buying the more expensive paints, it will last you a long time. Okay, and I think I have, yeah, still got a bit of hair on there. There we go. All right, okay. So, fairly thin layer. I'm just going to do a little bit of a slightly thicker layer. It's that, I'll talk about this every single time. It's that perfect Goldilocks amount of paint. Not too much, not too little. And all I can say is just keep trying until you're getting it correct. I know it's sometimes a pain because you want to be able to do it straight away, but okay, so I'm happy with that layer now. And I'm going to bring in my print. And I'm going to lay that down. Okay, give it a bit of a rub. Now again, you don't want to be pressing. And I'm going to go up to the edges because I have got, you know, the whole picture up to the edges is there with the tree branches and things. You don't want to press too hard, but you don't want to press too light either. So what we can do is peel away a little bit and just see how it's doing. Yeah, I can see that's coming through nicely, so I'm going to give that maybe just a bit of one more good look rub and then pull that away, and that's come out pretty nicely on there. Brilliant. Okay, that's good. Now what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to kind of wipe away some of these edges. And I'm just going to use a little bit of kitchen roll for that, or paper towel. And maybe just texture it a little bit. Just so I kind of feel like it fits in with the trees that are there, or the tree that is there. Okay. And obviously it's, as you can see, well, you might not be able to see, but it's virtually dry already, if I'm being honest. I'm having to rub it a lot harder now to get a big majority of that black off there. So okay, a bit more off the top there. Okay, so I'm hoping you can see at least a bit of that if I pull it up. So you can see you've got the tree branches there. Obviously I've got a bit of black from the previous pull that I did on the other side. So I don't think it's pulled the building quite as well, but it certainly has caught those branches pretty well there. So what I want to do now is I just want to add basically some of the open acrylics as the colour and what I'm going to pull it with, basically. Yeah, so I've gone for colours that I'm very interested in at the moment, like green gold. I'm seeing a lot of trees that almost look like, you know, they're very green gold in tone because it's winter time. They've got a bit of maybe a bit of lichen growing on them, and you know, it's giving them that beautiful coloration. I've also got Azo Gold because that's just another beautiful colour that I really like, and again, quite prominent in trees. And I've got, I've got Paynes grey. Obviously I'm not going to use that. I was pondering that one. So I think I'm mainly going to go for the green gold and the Azo Gold. And what I want to do is just lay it down in different areas. So I'm just going to get a bit think this is probably, I'm just going to let this dry for another minute or two actually, just in case, because I don't want to lose that beautiful transfer, you know, for putting a layer over the top. Another good thing with the Golden Open is that you can, you've got longer to get almost like a first layer pull. So for example, if I'd done this with one of these open paints, I could just pull that straight away, because it wouldn't have dried like it has done on this sort of Liquitex layer. So that is good if you are just wanting to work with, say, like, you know, florals and things like that, and you're kind of pulling things off, having to arrange things, pull them off carefully. You don't want that whole time you're spent pulling everything off your plate for the paint to then be dry, if you just want to pull it as it is on that layer, because then obviously you're going to have to add another layer on top, either another colour or some matte medium. So Liquitex matte medium is the one that I tend to use. Now, I have used other brands in the past, but that's what I'm going for now. And that's a good pulling medium, because that is basically just more or less like acrylic paint, but without the pigment. So it's not got the coloration. So that will just pull just as well as any acrylic paint layer for you. Okay. It just gives you that clear pull. So you can rescue things, you know, that you think, oh, I love that print, but it's dry, I can't pull it now. You can still pull it with a clear layer, and then it will look sort of pretty much as it did. It takes a bit of practice with a matte medium, but it does work. Okay, so now I've babbled on for a bit. I'm hoping this is dry. And I'm going to I really want to get a little bit of that kind of green gold through the trees, and especially kind of trunk area. And I'm going to put a tiny bit down, because obviously, like I say, it's, you know, you don't need much of it, and it has a long drying time. So I'm just going to kind of bring in quite a lot of it down there. There we go. So just giving it a nice green tone. I'm just wondering whether I should use more colours on this one, but to be honest, I'm having an experiment today. So we've got a bit of Azo Gold. Quinacridone is one of my favourite colours, but they have stopped making quinacridone. Some quinacridone colours, especially like the orangey ones. So Azo Gold I'm trying as a new kind of replacement almost for it. So let's get a bit of a little bit of let's get a little bit more of this Azo Gold here. What I might do is I might bring in, I'm just wondering whether to bring in a bit of blue. I should have got a blue in the golden really, but I didn't, so that will probably be my next investment, I think. And yeah, I'm just hoping, I'm really hoping that this is going to pull well, because I am doing a very thin layer, as I said. So let's get a bit more down here, I think. Obviously, I know it's sometimes hard for you to tell exactly what's going on from the, you know, from the sidelines almost, because it's just a bit more, that's quite nice, bit of texture on there. You can't always see that clearly on the plate, I know, but we'll see what happens when it pulls. And then I think I might just add a little bit of Liquitex Cobalt Blue just at the top. Just quickly at the end before I pull it, because that is basically a quicker drying acrylic, like I said. It's still heavy body. Yeah, it's still a heavy body one, so it is going to take a little bit longer to dry than your standard acrylic, but let's just see if I can get a bit of that's just going to give me a greenish tone, I know, but it'll be a slightly different coloration than the green, and just blend a bit of that in there. Let's see what we get. Okay, so let's pop this down then, and we'll see what we get. So this paper that I'm using is Lavinia Stamps Multifarious 350 GSM card, and I just love it to pull prints with because it is very forgiving. You can leave it on there for a long time and just sort of let it work its magic while you're waiting. Doesn't buckle, doesn't rip, just tends to pull really nicely. So I'm hoping we are going to get a good pull of this. Okay. You can always tell something's handmade, can't you? Get that? That's the, you can see, what's interesting is this is, I had nothing on my brayer, it's clean brayer. So this is the open acrylic at the sides, and as you can see how much it's picking up and moving across, look, that shows you how long it's taken to dry, because that was such a thin layer, it would have been dry already if it had been the heavy body. And so I'm really impressed with how that does. I'm just going to clean these properly because I don't want the lids. Little tip I've got, I found this out through using watercolours, and it drove me mad because all my watercolours had dried up at the top. I can't remember who the YouTuber was, but I looked it up basically, and I discovered that somebody said if you just press the bottom of your tube, if I just pull a bit out, look, that's me pushing in the middle here. You can see it's coming towards the top, look. If I press at the sides down here, one thumb and finger each side, press down there, and you can see it's gone back in. So push it in the middle, comes out, push it at the sides, comes back in. So awesome tip, gonna help you, you know, with less sticky paint tops basically. Right, so let's do the same with the cobalt blue. Press it at the side just to be sure. That's not too bad though, actually. Liquitex tubes don't tend to get too messy. And then with our Azo Gold, oh well, sign of using them, isn't it? So just get a little bit off there. There we go. Not too bad, that one. So still, you know, not use much paint at all there really. And what we can do if we want to, just give it another brayer. And I'm, like I say, I'm not fussed that I'm leaving this on here for a few minutes, because I know this print paper really well. It just does its job. And there we go, we've got that. You can see something on the other side of my plate there, so ignore those bits. But you can see the image transfer through there. It's quite nice to be able to turn your plate over and have a look at what you've got. So, total experiment with those paints today, and I kind of think while I was using them, I was underestimating their power, and I was a little bit scared. I was thinking, yeah, they got a long drying time, it's going to work fine, but I was still a little bit anxious about getting the paint on there and thinking, how is this going to look? You can see I've missed some off here. But, you know, you can add things over the top, like you can add inks over the top once it's finished. You can work into it a bit more, maybe with pan pastels and things like that. So there's pencils even. Yeah, colour, you can use pastel pencils, whatever sort of pencils you like. Watercolour pencils, you know. Bob's your uncle, really. So what I think I'm going to do then is give this a pull now. And fingers crossed, we've left enough drying time. So the grand reveal. This is our favourite bit, isn't it? And as you can see, I'm not worried about this ripping or buckling. It's just a great card, basically. And there is our image transfer. So, didn't come out quite so well on the building, but honestly, I am really interested in the trees at the minute. I'm just loving this sort of, this beautiful pull of the tree. So, I hope that's been helpful to you. I probably will do another one today as well and then pop that up in the next few days. I want to start trying to build up landscapes really, perhaps from sort of, you know, multiple image transfer layers. So maybe different pictures kind of cobbled together almost to give you something interesting. You can see here, look, that's where I had that edge in. So what you could do is just get a wet wipe and rub that out entirely. But, you know, it adds an interesting sort of border, I guess, to this. Or a bit of something else, bit of texture that you can play on and develop somehow. So I hope, there's the whole image. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I hope it's been helpful for you. I'm really excited about using the Golden Open acrylics. I'm not sponsored in any way, by the way. I just really want to say, you know, how amazing they are and how extensive their drying time is. So I think this is a bit of a game changer for me. So have a good week, guys. It's been lovely to come back on the channel and have a bit of an experimentation day. I have been sort of away for a while. Quite a bit of stuff's been going on as usual, but it's always nice to take a bit of time to just get back into your art, isn't it? And use that as a bit of an escapism from everything. So yeah. Hope you get a bit of art time and take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.